Peace, everybody. Had some issues yesterday with my internet, so willfully I won't have that issue right now, and I'll be able to share with you what I was going to share. Peace. Yesterday, actually. G, how's the sound for you? Peace. Does it sound pretty clear for y'all? Peace. Okay. What about the video? Is it choppy or anything like that? Long as the video's good as well. Okay, cool. Good, good, good. So peace. I will that everybody is well, your family is well, and every Gregorian calendar year, around the first week, I always share an article on my website, Atlantis School for Gifted Youngsters. Um, Here's the actual website. I'll put it in the chat. It's Atlantis School .blogspot.com. So every year, around the first week of the new Gregorian calendar year, I share 9 points to give people some reference material and resources to be successful in their undertakings approaching the next calendar year. I've been doing this for a while, so sometimes throughout the course of a year, I figure out a more refined way to do something, and I consistently update these 9 points in regards to being successful in your undertakings. On the website that I just posted in the chat, I'm going to be sharing that article on the build day, which is the 8th, coming up this week, so that you have the written form or the digital reference material for the 9 points that I'm going to be going over with you this afternoon. So the reason that I do this is because a lot of times people make resolutions at the beginning of a year, and they oftentimes may not have a blueprint or game plan in order to accomplish whatever goals that they set out for themselves. And people tend to burn themselves out because of they don't have a blueprint in order to be successful in those undertakings. So the 9 points that I'm going to be sharing with you this afternoon are for the purpose of providing you with some resources and reference points so that you can be successful in your undertakings throughout this calendar year. The first point, and these are not in any kind of particular order or anything like that. All of them are important. And I use 9 because in our supreme mathematics, 9 represents completion. When we take things from knowledge, which is 1 or the foundation, to born, things are made complete. Just like it takes 9 months for a child typically to be born and go from a gas to a liquid to a solid state. Our determined ideas go through the exact same process before they're made manifest in the physical realm. But they all start off with just an intangible idea to begin with until that mind materializes into matter. Over time, of course. So the first point is any kind of goal that we set for ourselves, any kind of personal idea. We have to consider, how does this interpersonally impact others? What is the social impact of my idea? It's simple to just sit there and say, oh, I want to get me a new car this year. Hey, that's simple. I want to buy this. I want to buy that. Those type of ideas usually don't have much sustainability to them because they don't have any kind of social impact, which means with that car that you got, if you're no longer here, especially if you don't have a will in place, that's just going to be a rusty piece of junk if you're no longer here. Right? There was no real social impact with that goal that you set for yourself personally. So setting goals for ourselves, it's important to make sure that those goals also have a social impact, that they have some type of asset in the lives of other people, as well as something that is going to benefit the overall environment, because there's sustainability in an idea that is like that. So for example, if you say, I want to start a business, right? If your goal for starting that business is to just get some money, you have the wrong focus and the wrong intentions of why you want to be an entrepreneur, because it's very limited in scope and perspective in terms of its social impact. At the same time, because a person is not really considering other people, you just considering lining your own pockets, then the success of that entrepreneurship or business is solely on you. Other people are not included in any of that. So other people have no real vested interest in helping line your pockets. Now, if you were to say, I wanted to start a business because I see a need of the people, and I also wanted to generate enough revenue so that I could create a scholarship fund because I see that some younger people are lacking in terms of supplies that they may need when they're going to, a college level, or maybe even entering into high school. I wanted to help provide something for them in that capacity, or other different social considerations. Now, because your perspective is much wider in terms of entrepreneurship, you've also invited other people in regards to the responsibility of making sure that this is sustainable. Other people have a vested interest in that idea now, because you're thinking much wider and larger than your own pockets. So as you begin to fulfill that determined idea, you also will begin to see other people who are invested in making sure that this idea is successful, because it obviously impacts them in a positive way. You may have some people that say, oh man, I think that's beautiful that you're striving to start a fund or some type of scholarship for a student or students. Here, I like to contribute to that and be a part of that. I would like to be in partnership or to collaborate with you in this capacity, because I see the goals that you have for yourself, and that it's not just about you. So that's one of the things that I start off with, informing people in terms of goals that they set for themselves. Consider its social impact. How is this going to benefit the lives of others who are around me in terms of my family, my community, my people, and the overall human family? And how is this also going to impact the environment in a positive way? Because when you consider things in that scope, you're also inviting others to have a vested interest and ownership in the success of that determined idea, as opposed to you having a short, limited, determined idea based upon what you just personally want to get. A lot of times people don't care about nothing like that. So the second point is the goals that we set for ourselves. It's important to make sure that they're real and obtainable. A lot of times we may overwhelm ourselves because our goals are just so large that they may border on delusions of grandeur. It may be something that seems so far apart or distant from where we are, it could be discouraging. And sometimes when people approach goals from that perspective that are unrealistic, they just don't do anything, because the unrealistic approach towards that goal is discouraging. So that's something that I also encourage people to do. Make sure that your goals are real and obtainable. And it takes time. You know, one thing I say all of the time is that the only thing that happens overnight is the night. So it takes time. And even when you look at a large goal, when you break that large goal down, one thing you'll realize is that it is composed of many different component parts. Many different component parts. If you see a person and they have successfully broke through the film industry in terms of like they're a cinematographer or something along those lines, you may not realize that what appeared to be overnight for this person took 15 years of preparation to even get to that point. And there were very small accomplishments or contributions that were made on behalf of that person that ultimately became the composite of this larger goal that you watched them achieve. Even when you're looking at things from a just scientific perspective, things with the naked eye look very solid to us. Very concrete and very solid. But once you put it under a microscope, you realize that this solid object is really composed of many different smaller parts. And it functions the exact same way with our larger goals. A larger goal is nothing more than a composite of many smaller goals. So in setting realistic goals for ourselves, we're also building confidence, our self-esteem, as well as developing the skill set and the experience to be able to move on to another goal once we've accomplished one goal. And like I said, over time, we will eventually realize that the large goal is really a composite of all of the smaller different goals and accomplishments and contributions that we made leading up to that destination or that place where we want to see ourselves at. So that's something that's also very, very important to keep in mind. Make sure that our goals are realistic and obtainable, because if not, we're only going to discourage ourselves with making some very unrealistic expectations about where we want to ultimately be. And take it one day at a time as well. One day at a time. One of the things that I also speak about a lot, and I'm putting this word in the comments, specificity. That's one of my specificity is one of my favorite words. Specificity, which means being specific, not speaking in a very murky, ambiguous way, but being very specific about the things that we set out to do. For example, it's better to establish a concrete date that you want to accomplish a certain goal by, as opposed to just saying, one day I want to do this. Because you can take out a calendar right now and look at it. There is no such thing as one day on a calendar. That's not a concrete date. So because it's something abstract and it's something that's not concrete, it typically doesn't happen. But if you set a specific date when you want to accomplish a goal by, and I'm not saying that you go around and you announce it to everybody, but you set that for yourself, now you can literally work towards something in terms of achieving one of your goals. And if you are unable to achieve it by that particular date, set another date. But you keep yourself accountable and responsible for something that you've made a determined idea to manifest. If a person says, oh, one day or maybe and stuff, there is no sense of determination in that, or no ambition. So because there is no determination or no ambition, there is no will there. That's the difference between a determined idea and just an idea. A determined idea has will as a component part of that idea. That's what makes it determined. So it's very, very important to deal with the science of specificity, because in that way, you have much more of a likelihood to manifest something as opposed to being ambiguous and murky about whatever your ideas are. Think about that in terms of relationships. How many times have some of you, and I'm sure I've done that before as well, where you describe a life partner and you're not really specific about it. And you end up maybe getting some of those qualities that you envision, but you get a whole lot of something else too. You get a whole lot of something else because you weren't specific enough. I gave an example yesterday before, this internet start acting up. And I was saying, if you got a 5-year-old child in the house and there's a black belt on the couch that you want them to go get for you, think about how many trips you're going to be sending that 5-year-old back and forth. If you just say, hey, could you go grab that off the couch? It could be a number of things sitting on that couch. Go grab that bring that over here for me from the couch. It may take them 4 or 5 trips before they realize what you were actually talking about. Whereas you could have saved them trips. You could have saved time and energy by simply saying, could you go grab the black belt that's over on beside the grocery bag on the couch, please, and bring it to me. It's much more of a likelihood for you to get what it is that you desire when you're much more specific about it. And at the same time, specificity is all about details. Details. And when you're dealing with the science of causation, creative imagination or visualization, manifestation, specificity is in the details. So how well detailed that you are gives you much more of a concrete opportunity to manifest something that is just an idea. And that is really the ultimate goal. You're taking an intangible idea and making it manifest. So specificity is very, very, very important in terms of helping you manifest your determined ideas. And then that goes into point number 4 about what I just mentioned about having a projected time and date that you establish for the goals that you want to set for yourself. And like I mentioned as well, it's not necessary that you have to go and announce it to everybody, because usually if you don't have like a set date and time for when you want to accomplish a certain goal, and you go telling people about your goal and what you want to do, now you're going to be subject to the expectations, the time, and the intentions of other people who don't share your vision. So you may want to publish a book this year, right? So you go and you telling people, oh yeah, I can't wait to get this book published. In one person's mind, they may think that you publishing that book tomorrow. You ain't telling no time or date. So now they're expecting you to publish a book tomorrow. Somebody else, they may be thinking, okay, they're going to publish that book by the summertime. Somebody else, their expectation may be this time next year. Now you're going to be subject to the expectations, the intentions of other people, which puts unnecessary pressure on you to fulfill your determined idea, when all you really need is your own pressure and your own ambition and expectations. You don't need that from everybody else, because now you're going to be dealing with a lot of more unrealistic expectations, and you're going to be answering a lot of questions and everything else because you're doing a bunch of talking, which also means you're going to be subject to a lot of doubt now. Because say, for example, you're going around telling people, oh yeah, I'm going to publish this book. And then one of those people because they assume there is no time or date or whatever. They assume that you're publishing that book next week. So now next time you see them, they could be coming at you from a whole different angle. Like, man, you a bullshitter. You lying. You ain't going to do this. You ain't going to do that. Having a whole bunch of doubt because now they have an expectation about you that you don't even have for yourself. So now you're creating unnecessary battles because of your mouth. One of the things that I've consistently done for years is I don't say shit until it's done. I don't tell people what I'm doing. The only people that I share what I'm doing with are people who can contribute to helping me fulfill that determined idea. I don't tell people what I'm doing. If I tell people I'm publishing a book, that book has already been done. There ain't nothing you could do about it. Then I'll tell you, because there's no way to stop it. And I don't care about your doubts, because you're only going to look foolish anyway, because it's already done. But if you're telling people what you're going to do and you ain't do it yet, now you're creating resistance to your determined idea, which is unnecessary. You're already dealing with your natural resistance to just living life, trying to fulfill a determined idea. And I said trying because you're already dealing with opposition just by living in this form, being subject to time, and dealing with all of the other just natural expectations of striving to do something, which is making that idea matter. You're already dealing with natural challenges and resistance just within yourself. So you don't need to go around and create more resistance for yourself. It's unnecessary. Only tell people about stuff after you're done. Because that way they can't stop nothing. And their doubt and their whatever does not matter at all. It's just like a baby. You know, when a child is born, that child has to build its immunity. You don't take a child right out into the middle of the environment or bring that child around certain people or whatever. They don't even have the immunity yet in order to deal with the type of outside influences that could undermine their health and their ability to sustain themselves. A child has to build up that immunity first before they should be around certain people, places, and things. Because if you do that too early, you could compromise the life of that child. Our ideas are the exact same way. You don't share your ideas too early around people because they don't have the immunity or the sustainability to be able to confront or deal with the outside influences, the doubt, the insecurities, all of these other different things that people have concerning your idea or your baby. No? You good? Speaking of my baby, hold on. I got you. So setting a time and date creates a sense of urgency, responsibility, and accountability with meeting your goals. Something else that someone said in the chat, which I also wanted to mention, is my fifth point, and that is writing down your ideas. One thing that I've shared with people before is, and I've done this many years ago, is create index cards with certain ideas on it or words of power that you consistently want to reinforce, not just consciously, but also on a unconscious or subconscious level. Because in your environment, you're constantly being programmed and your ideas are constantly being reinforced by everything that you see and don't pay attention to. especially in your own home, it's important to create it in such a space where it reinforces your identity. We really don't have that much control once we step outside of our homes and we see people, places, and things, or institutions and organizations that don't reinforce our identity and who we are. And we're constantly being bombarded with those type of ideas. And it's easy to see why a lot of times some people have low self-esteem or vacant esteem, because when they look around, they don't see a lot of positive images or ideas about who they actually are. You can control that in your own home. So it's important to make sure that you have iconography, images that reflect you in a very positive way. And you have words of power that also reinforces your identity. And that coincides with writing your goals down. Many years ago, I used to take images of things that I wanted to make manifest, or I would write down ideas and I would just put them on like index cards or images around in my house where I would see them every single day. Even if I wasn't conscious or paying attention to them, they were in places that were communicated to my subconscious mind. Whenever I walked into my home, wherever I walked out of my home, these were ideas that were constantly reinforced. That's very, very important. True indeed, self-elevation. So writing your ideas down is also an important part of being successful in your undertakings. Number 7, look into networking with people and organizations that will help you fulfill your physical and mental health goals, as well as being that type of network for other people. So it's not all about just you connecting with others based upon what they can do for you, but connecting with others based upon what you can do for them. I know the people that I connect with that I'm going to be an asset. I personally wouldn't even feel comfortable being connected or around somebody if I didn't think that I was going to be an asset to them. I would stop being around people if I looked at my posture or my position or my presence being a liability. I wouldn't even, maybe that's just the way my pride is set up. I don't like being a do nothing person to other people. So whenever I'm connecting with people, I'm always striving to assess, how can I be of assistance to this person? How can I be an asset? So in moving through the goals that you've set for yourself this year, make sure that you are in a company of people who are assets, not liabilities. And make sure that you are an asset to people and not a liability. You know? Number 8, speaking of health, strive to maintain a positive outlook. And when I say strive to maintain a positive outlook, I'm not talking about ignoring negative stuff and acting like it don't exist, because there's a lot of negativity, not only around us, but if you sat down and paid attention to the thoughts that go through your stream of consciousness, they're not your thoughts. They're only your thoughts if you claim them and strive to give those thoughts power and presence in your life. You'll be surprised the type of negativity that just flows through our stream of consciousness. So I'm not saying that you just act like you ignoring stuff that's negative. You acknowledge it, but you always strive to think about, okay, what could I do about it? Or what can be done about it? Or what is being done about it? And you don't do it in an obsessive type of way. It just means you approach things in principle. Let me give you an example. There's a difference between building And I'm talking about communicating with another person for the purpose of elevation and gossiping. So, for example, you can see a person that is doing something that you don't think is positive, and it's easy to just point that out and talk about how negative it is. The challenge is to see that and to consider what principles are absent and what principles could be present to make this person more positive and progressive. And in a conversation, this is how it would actually look. You see a person that's doing something that you think is not really progressive or positive. Instead of just talking about the person, discuss the principles that are either absent or that need to be present. So if it's a guy and he's treating a woman a certain type of way or whatever, instead of just talking about how this person ain't shit, talk about the principles that are absent. Talk about the principles that should be present, and then how that can serve as a life example to empower others to be more positive and progressive. So you look at those people, those places, and those things as life examples of how it can serve a greater purpose, not just sitting there talking about people. And when you're done talking about people, now what? Okay, this person is doing that. Okay, now what? Because what you will ultimately realize is if you're actually doing the work, if you're in the midst of doing something positive and progressive, you ain't got time to be doing all of that anyway. And that's one thing that you will realize, especially over the course of last year with this pandemic, where a lot of people literally had to sit down. You really had an opportunity to see how petty and non-progressive people were. That a lot of people, especially on social media, were posturing and fronting and trying to act like they're doing this, that, and the third. And in reality, they weren't really doing shit. And because now they had to sit down, it turned up a lot of pettiness with people last year. Because to take the attention off the fact that they're not really doing anything, they talked about a lot of people last year. Just tried to mask the fact that they're not really doing anything of real significance or importance. But when you're really doing this work, you don't have time to sit around and talk about people and what they ain't doing. And if you do see people that are not doing something, you take that as an analysis of lack of principles and how the presence of principles could make this person more positive and progressive, and how you can take this life lesson and share it with somebody else. In our language, in the 5%, we talk about that in the form of preserving the best part for ourselves. Right? So strive to maintain a positive outlook by looking at things that you may consider to be negative, and what is the lesson in that? What could we learn from that? And how could that make us much more positive and progressive? And number 9, keep in mind that your idea isn't the end all be all. It doesn't plateau somewhere. And that goes all the way back to knowledge being the foundation, what I shared initially about making sure that our ideas have a social impact to them. That it's something that is going to be sustainable and perpetual long after we're no longer here. Because in that way, approaching things from that perspective shows and proves that any type of idea that we have or goal that we set for ourselves is just the point of establishing another goal. It's the place that we set another foundation to build on another goal. And like I said earlier, any large goal that you ever see a person accomplishing, when you look at it under the microscope, it's really just a composite of a bunch of smaller goals that they've accomplished over the course of many years, oftentimes, before they actually arrived at the place that you see them at right now. So your goals never plateau. It's a constant state of elevation. Now, another thing that I wanted to say is something that I learned from one of my homegirls. And one of the things that she's oftentimes told me is that it's important to be the shark, not the peacock. It's important to be the shark, not the peacock. And that's important because you look at a peacock, when a peacock walks into an environment, everybody sees the peacock. Fan their feathers out. They're very beautiful and elegant, and they're very attention seeking, especially the male peacocks. In terms of setting our goals, it's better to approach it from the perspective of a shark as opposed to a peacock, because signaling to everybody that you're coming may not always be the right thing. Sometimes you got to be the spook that sat by the door. And that's the way that the shark operates. If you're in some water and you see that dorsal fin come out of the water, it's already too late for you to do anything. It's too late. You can't stop it now. You're done. So setting your goals is the exact same way as being a shark, as opposed to walking in a room and telling everybody what you're going to do and how you look and everything else. Be the shark. Because a lot of times from that perspective, you have much more of an opportunity to be successful in your undertakings because you're not doing a whole bunch of talking. And that's what a lot of people oftentimes do, as opposed to putting in the work and the effort in order to get things done. And here's something else that I wrote about in terms of like how social media can serve as an impediment or a detriment to us achieving our goals. Sometimes people are satisfied with just receiving the acknowledgement of thinking about an idea or a goal. So for example, a person say, I'm starting my podcast this year, right? They post that on social media. They get 100 likes and, oh yeah, that's going to be great. This and the third. Some people are simply satisfied with the response of the people that they're connected with on social media. And biochemically, the response physiologically that you get from those digital strokes are the same if you literally accomplished that task and people acknowledged you for accomplishing that task. So a lot of times people are simply satisfied with just saying that they're going to do something. They're satisfied with just sharing an idea. And because they've been acknowledged for just thinking about doing something, a lot of them don't even feel any motivation with following through. Because now they live in this digital world where people believe that they are something just based upon something that they said that they want to do. And that's enough for some people. That's enough. So those are some of the things that I wanted to share today, just in regards to 9 ways to master 2021. And like I said, the article, which goes more into detail about the points that I've just shared with all of you, I'm going to be publishing it on the build day of this week so that you can actually go and check it out. I put the link in the comments, and I'm also going to go back once this video is uploaded and processed. I'm going to put the link to the article in the description of this video so that you can go back and read it when I publish it on the build day. Also, my born day is on the equality day. in a few days from now on Epiphany Day, ironically. And, just thinking about my journey in terms of knowledge of self. Up until this point, I'm going to be cultural equality. I'll be 46 years old. And, sometime this week, I'm probably going to come back on and just do a live stream, just talking a little bit about my born day and some of the things that I've been thinking about, just my journey in life thus far, and things that I could share with all of you in regards to references and resources to willfully help you become much more successful in your undertakings as well. Before I get off this afternoon, I could take some questions from those of you who have some, and strive my best to answer your questions. Living and understanding out nowadays, shark and not a peacock. I remember when you said that at the show Improve in 2018 on social media for a few more months. Got my head down, focused on self and goals. Peace, power born. No doubt. Yeah, I've like that's one of the things, like I said earlier, that I only share things with people that I already have done. Because a lot of times we may share things prematurely, and in sharing things prematurely, the task at hand or our ability to accomplish that goal is now subject to the ideas and the expectations of outsiders, which a lot of times don't share our vision or may not even mean good. So I'm not saying that, they sitting at home meditating on our downfall and stuff like that, or talking about us. People do that kind of stuff. But I'm just talking about actively engaging people in conversation about some goal that you've set for yourself, and they have doubt and can't even see it themselves. How are they going to contribute to that conversation positively? What are they going to say? That's why sometimes if you have a goal or an idea and you're striving to share it with somebody and they really can't contribute to that conversation, that's because number one, they don't share that vision. And number two, they don't even know how they can contribute to that conversation because they haven't even thought about that as a possibility for themselves. So how are they going to see that as a possibility for you? You have to be able to share those type of ideas only with those who have actually accomplished that already, or people that are invested in being an asset to you accomplishing those type of goals. And you have to be that type of person to other people. You have to be that type of person to other people. So I don't share anything until it is done, and there is nothing you can do about it. Those of you who are connected with me on IG and on Facebook, I've consistently been keeping people updated on my Atlantis School for Gifted Youngsters Renovation Project. And I just put it in the chat. You can actually go to my my link to get further information about it. And then, like I said, if you're on IG and on Facebook, I consistently update people on the progress of my Atlantis School. And I only share what I've actually done. I don't share stuff that ain't done or that I didn't do yet. Because again, now my determined idea is subject to the unrealistic expectations of other people who don't share in that vision and usually cannot contribute to that determined idea as an asset. So these are things keys that I've successfully used for years to be successful in the things that I do. For years. It doesn't matter what I do, whether I'm doing animation that you check out on my YouTube channel, or if you have Roku, the 7 on demand, My animation series is on there now. Thank you. I appreciate it, Tyrone. Whether I'm writing books or articles or I'm doing videos or other different projects, programs, and initiatives, I I've consistently used the things that I'm sharing with all of you for years to be successful in my undertaking. So whenever y'all see me share something that I'm gonna be sharing this soon, it's already been done. I'm just letting y'all know that I'm gonna make it available to y'all now. If you see me saying that, oh, I'm gonna be putting out a book soon, that book has already been done, y'all. Matter of fact, I'm probably halfway through the next book that I'm writing. If I say that I'm going to be sharing an animation and you get a notice that I'm going to be doing, that's been done already. I'm already either done with another animation or I'm working on a third one at that time. But taking that kind of approach, it gives you the wherewithal and it helps you build type of immunity from attacks on your ideas and your ability to fulfill those type of goals. I share many of the ideas you shared with my 19-year-old son in hopes that it helps him in his growth. Okay. That's peace, Corey. I tend to share my goals with people around me due to them just being around me. And oftentimes the current setback is not as warm as how I share my ideas and goals. Oh yeah, definitely. Thank you, y'all. Yeah, share your goals with people that can contribute to those goals. And be the type of person that can contribute to other people's goals. Because the same way that you may share your goals with some people and you feel like it's not warmly received or they're not really giving you positive feedback or whatever, don't be that person to other people too. Don't be that person to other people. One of the things that I was saying before is that even if we have a personal goal, our personal goal also is interpersonal. It's going to impact those who are around us. It's also going to impact the environment in some form or fashion. So it's good to consider that type of impact before we follow through with those type of ideas. That's what I initially said in my first point about making sure that our ideas are sustainable. You know? So if I don't have any questions, I'm gonna get ready to get off of here. Lay my I've been striving to not call her my baby because she's been taking that to the head and using that to her advantage, being a baby to be babied. You know what I mean? So I've been changing it up like, yo, this is my big girl now. But yeah, I gotta lay my big girl down. But again, yeah, I appreciate y'all just taking the time to come on here and to check out my videos. And like I said, sometime this week I'll probably come back on once I create some space. And if you can, please support my Atlantis School Renovation Project. Peace, bro. How you? It's definitely appreciated. Yeah. Yeah. Powerborn, she's something else, man. She growing up so fast Like she's gonna be my first. This one right here, she's gonna be my first that I'm actually homeschooling. My other ones is sharp, and I supplemented their education, just teaching them as whatever I could, in addition to them going through the school system. But she's something else, yo. So I'm like, I don't know. When it's time for her to enter kindergarten, she's gonna be prepared to be in second grade. You know. But but yeah, so you get a chance, go back and listen to the whole broadcast again, because I share some things. Those of you that tuned in a little bit later um, didn't have an opportunity to hear, but I was just simply going through 9 ways to master 2021. And like I mentioned, every year around the first week of the new Gregorian calendar year, I publish an article sharing various different points that sometimes I might refine throughout the course of the year because I've learned something new in terms of being successful in my undertakings. And I share that so that people can have those resources and points of reference align with their resolutions that they establish throughout the course of the year. Some amazing queens. When she spit her math, my mind was blown. I went back and showed that video to these folks who are dragging butt. Yeah. Yo, but see, let me tell you this, Powerborn. You know my background is early childhood development. So, and Sean Love that's on here right now, his background is in education as well. One of the keys is when children, and I'm just going to talk about them being physically born, from their physical birth all the way into up to first grade, those are their formative years. That's when you really start to see the shaping of a determined idea, because their brain architecture is literally being constructed. So as a part of constructing the brain architecture, it's important to introduce them to words and ideas that become a determined part of their cognitive trajectory. So I say that to say this: introducing Anusha to various different words, such as our supreme mathematics. If we're sitting around and somebody's building with me, or they hear something on television, if they use one of those words in our supreme mathematics, it automatically triggers in her conscious attention of what that was and what this person was saying, because now she's starting to learn more about context of these words that I've introduced her to. So just like last night, we were watching something and a person on a television show had mentioned knowledge, and she automatically looked and was like, knowledge, and looked at me. So one of the unfortunate things about a lot of children that grow up in inner cities and in rural communities is they may not have access to certain words linguistically or from a literary perspective. So they may be growing up and not having access to certain words that other children are consistently having access to because of the type of environment and the resources that they have around them. And what ends up happening is when you have children that have less words, they also have a less of a capacity to communicate what they're striving to conceptualize, which goes into what I was talking about earlier in terms of specificity. The less words that you have, the less capacity you have to be able to articulate what it is that you desire and you want, which undermines your ability to make things manifest and take things from knowledge to born. Right? So having those type of conversations, especially around children, not baby talk, but utilizing words that enables them to start adding that to their vocabulary, increases their potential to conceptualize life. And once they are in a position to attend the world, they're going to be attending the world from a different place than other children that may not have access to the type of brain architecture that you've actually been a part of. So yeah, it's all just a science of life. You know what I mean? Like I said, she just turned wisdom. She just turned 2. And the things that she's doing and the things that I'm putting in her environment is, helping shape her consciousness in a way that enables her to be successful in her undertakings as she gets older. Yeah, I know it's not wise to compare them, however, it is a concern because I don't want her wasting her potential. Yeah, I understand that. Oh, yeah, we could do that, Powerborn. Yeah, and keep in mind, too, I know, especially under these circumstances with this pandemic and a lot of us moving to a hybrid teaching model and a lot of our children are doing things online, there's a lacking in the social emotional component when it comes to a lot of our children just doing this online learning. And a lot of our children, their strong suit in terms of learning may be hands-on, may be dealing with being in the presence and through the experiential aspect of education, as opposed to learning through just them listening and looking, So one thing that I've been encouraging not only educators, but parents and guardians is make sure that you take time to invest social emotionally with a lot of our children, because they're already missing a lot, just not being in school or having the type of opportunities that they may have had before this pandemic. Yeah, that's what I do too, G. I'm in the classroom Monday, Tuesday with half of my students. I'm straight online Wednesday, and then my other half of the students come on Thursday and Friday. And that's just with the students. A lot of times some of the parents and guardians are not as invested or taking serious the education of their children. So sometimes they don't send them to school and stuff, or have the children feeling like they ain't really got to do their work. So that's been a challenge this year. It's definitely been a challenge for me. Starting next week, because we're going to be concluding our winter break this weekend, actually starting today. I'm going to be starting my Boys as Allies Rites of Passage program. So I'm going to be doing that twice a week, starting this week with 6th grade boys. So I'm definitely excited about that, because it enables me to be able to connect with them a little bit more than what I've been able to do throughout the course of this year, just simply because of the pandemic and all of the different rules and regulations with our school district and our school in particular. So to give me a chance to really give them a lot of things that they haven't been getting, generally speaking, and that they definitely have not been getting under these current societal circumstances. Yeah. All right, y'all. Let me get ready to get off of here. But again, I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Make sure you go and check out my Atlantis School for Gifted Youngsters Renovation Project. If you don't know what it is, I put the link in the comments. And then also you can go through my videos on my page. I have some videos I gave a walkthrough in the summertime of my estate that I'm renovating into an early childhood learning center and after school program for youth in my city. And then I have other different things related to the Atlantis School for Gifted Youngsters on this page as well. So enjoy the rest of y'all Sunday. And I'll build with y'all again as soon as I create the time. Peace.